Cohesive. That's an interesting way of describing someone. Like got it together? Cohesive? Yeah, there you go. Mm-hmm. To cohere, to bring together, and stick-to-itive. Yeah, exactly. All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Have a chance, please. All quiet, please. Thank you. We're going to start a new unit on Rwanda and the Balkans, and just give you a little bit of an overview. And we also, some of you guys are like, well, we want to do more review. Yes, we'll do a little bit more review. Okay, just a little bit. Okay, and the other is on the video that I uploaded, and I think we got I checked it real quick because we got the audio to work fine, which is good. Although it is suspicious, I came in here today and was like, oh my gosh, everything's kind of knocked over and things were unplugged, and I think maybe the cleaning crew bumped into the setup there, and just because some of the connections are a little weak, and so if they're apart for too long, then the battery runs out. If the battery doesn't work, then this little light is not on, and this little light doesn't shine, and oh my gosh, it's like a really sad song. Yeah. So then we can't have the audio. But we got the audio for the lesson from before. Did you guys listen to the audio for that? Oh, there's Landon.
There's Landon.
All right. Hey, welcome. We're going to do a bit more review, and then we're going to start. I need to upload that to Google Classroom. That's one more thing. The Rwanda thing is need to upload for that. Rwanda is going to be a paper 1 topic. At the end of Rwanda and then also Kosovo, I will give you training on how to do paper 1. It's actually very straightforward. You'll find that it is a nice thing. Paper 1 hasn't changed from the past. It's an hour long, and it involves a lot of OPVL kind of stuff, which you guys are pretty good at. Yeah.
So there's multiple topics for each paper that you choose from. First of all, when you take the exams, are they going to be graded by the same person?
It's a good question. For all the essays, I think the essays are going to end up getting dispersed from a number of people. I don't know that the same person is going to do the grading for every single essay that you write. And ultimately, 1 paper 2 essay instead of 2 paper 3 essays instead of 3. So you'll like 3, 45-minute essays. And your paper 1, when we get to training on that, there's a component of it that's like a little mini essay. It's about like 20, 25 minutes long and so forth. But yeah, the whole paper 1 thing will be graded by the same person, I believe. Okay, and I'll get you the training and explanations on that as we go forward. Translation, we don't have as much content to do. Yeah. And that has been advice. I haven't heard that advice on the history one. I've heard that on the English, and Mrs. Rao was very aware of that to try and encourage you guys to spread it out among the different things. I haven't heard that for the history one. Generally, when I ask students afterwards, which essay questions did you end up choosing? There's some that are more popular because they're just better written essay questions that are easier to do, and we've covered them really well. But it usually spreads out pretty well, especially like the paper 3 ones. Oh yeah, you are. You're doing 2 essays from paper 3. No, paper 2 is there. It's just reduced, and paper 3 is reduced. Paper 2 used to be 2 essays. You'll just do 1. Paper 3 used to be 3 essays. You'll just do 2. I mean, they've actually shaved off about an hour and a half from the time that you're sitting down doing history writing.
How big are these
under the
essays
circumstances.
supposed to be, approximately?
About 45 minutes long. April, we'll be doing a lot of that calibration.
Not like another IA or EE?
No. We'll be training you on how to do paper 1, which is particular, a lot of OPVL stuff, and it'll cover the topics that we're starting today and that we will do. So it's basically Rwanda and Kosovo, one of the two. They'll give you, it'll either be on Rwanda or Kosovo. But it's like an OPVL thing. You look at some documents and you're like, oh, the origin, purpose, and value limitations. They'll have some questions and so forth. It's very doable. Okay? I'm not concerned about you guys being ready for that part of it. Okay? And then we'll have lots of training for you guys on paper 2 and paper 3 kind of essays. You'll literally be coming in, and it'll be great because we'll be back on the 90-minute schedule. So we'll get you in. We'll sort of maybe do a little review. Although, frankly, we'll get you started on the essay real quick. redistribute them, peer feedback. Next time you come in, do it again. So it's kind of like those of you guys who like to play sports, practice, practice, practice. So then what happens on the big game? You're ready, right? You got like IB history muscle memory, boom, and choices. Because you look at some of those and go, no, so forth. Jack, I know who watches this. He came in the other day and asked me a question. Like, well, can we do a paper 2, like authoritarian government question? I'm like, you can look at the questions, and some of them might actually be doable because we've covered some authoritarian governments, Soviet government, German government, and so forth in the context of what we're doing here. But probably most of you guys are going to pick your one essay from either the 2 questions on Cold War or the 2 questions on 20th century wars, because we've covered all of the stuff in there. But there are little bits of overlap. I would be shocked if you chose a paper 2 question on like colonial America. You're like, what? Yeah, they do. I mean, they've got all those kinds of other, yeah, it's like this big massive list of questions. You're like, skip, 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 skip. Oh, here we go. I'll do that one. Okay? All right. Questions, comments? Okay? I don't know. We'll figure that out. When we get to the training stuff, when we get that out, we'll figure that out. Okay? Test tomorrow, so you guys will come in. We'll do the test. So everybody, and if you're not going to be here for the test, like some of you guys aren't here, look, isn't that nice that they did that? All the people that like to show up on the green day, they changed it to a green day. So if you're a regular blue day person, you're kind of probably you're like one that comes on blue days. Everybody else kind of comes on most every day right in here, right? But you're like a blue day one. Yeah, but the other one's Landon's going to be like, yeah, I'll be there Friday. But Tara, either come Friday, test and so forth, or we'll have to set up another time. I'm sorry, were you talking?
No, he's talking to, we want him to come every day, but he doesn't.
I know. We want everyone to come every day and so forth.
Landon.
Exactly. And next year I hope everything will be cool so everyone can come every day and we don't have to do all this Zoom thing and so forth. But that's irrelevant to you. You guys are going off to college. Hopefully it won't be Zoom college. Hopefully you'll be able to actually attend college. Hopefully things will be safe enough for that. Hopefully. Huh? Yeah, it'll be up to you. You guys figure it out. All right, we've got a few more. We'll do a few more review questions. Let's see, we did. Let's do this one, okay? Jackson, you want to go or you want to call on somebody?
I don't know. Sure, I'll go.
Okay, here we go. Shh. Everyone listen. Take a look at your notes. I don't even have that packet in front of me now. That would actually help because then I can direct you. Islamic people. Mm-hmm. Give me the name of the... I'll give you a hard one because that's nice for you to have a hard one because this one's way too easy. I mean, we know who the Saudi Islamic anti-Soviet fighter in Afghanistan was that ultimately turned against the United States.
That's my question.
No, that's everyone knows that one. Who's that one? Thank you, Osama bin Laden. Your question is this one. Yeah, well, too bad. You'll get that one on the test. But here's your question for here. Give me the name of the last pro-Soviet leader of Afghanistan. And his first name is like so many other Muslims.
Muhammad.
That's right. That's the first part.
Wow.
I think I've only got 2 Muhammads in there. Last pro-Soviet leader of Afghanistan. Which is in episode, whatever, 20? She knows it. It's good. Episode 20. I mean, it's right there. Soldiers of God. Shall we? Because we're going to get to Rwanda here pretty quick, and the more questions that we can get, so... McKinley. Okay, McKinley is not going to take the test for everybody tomorrow. She's going to take the test for herself. No, not Muhammad Zia al-Haq. Muhammad Zia al-Haq was the Pakistani leader. Who was the last? Muhammad Najibullah. Did you get that? And you're like, sure. Study, 24 hours. Okay, Jackson, who goes next?
Mary.
Mary. Give me the name of the man who stood up to and ultimately was able to defeat the 1991 hardline communist coup attempt in Moscow. I'm looking at him right now. Huh? No! Gorbachev was off being held under house arrest. And this guy would, I mean, it's not in the thing, but this guy would ultimately be the leader of the Russian part of the Soviet Union throughout the 1990s. I'm not trying to bore you with details, but you do need to know these details. Thank you, that's the answer. Yeah. Yes, Boris Yeltsin. Exactly. Okay, Mary goes. Quinn. All right, Quinn. This guy brings it together. He brings the two parts of Germany, West and East, together. He was the West German leader. He will end up being the leader of the combined West and East when they become Germany. I think so. Yeah, he's actually listed in episode 23. And he was there present when Reagan said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." You think you have any? You guys, you're welcome always to pop your hands up as soon as you know what the answer is. You got several hands up. Okay, your teammates, they're all in there, ready for football. They've all got their gear on their head.
I'm going to guess, but I don't think it's right. Is it Eric Honecker?
No, Erich Honecker is the East German communist leader. Ah. You're as bad as my sister going up to the ballet dancer and going, Mr. Brezhnev, when his name was not Brezhnev. It was Baryshnikov, and he had escaped communism. Helmut Kohl. Okay? All right, Quinn, who goes? Rodrigo. Give me the name of a military device sold by the United States to Mujahideen in Afghanistan to shoot down Soviet aircraft. Very good. Stinger missiles. Right, shoulder-held surface-to-air missiles. Very good. Who goes next? Who? Trenton. Okay, Trenton. Czechoslovakia. Ching, 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 ching. Remember the keys? They're like, your time is up. Time to go. Communist. It was a peaceful transference of power from hardline communists. What was it called in Czechoslovakia in 1989? It wasn't the singing revolution. That was for Estonia. Yes, that's the Velvet Revolution. Very good. Okay. Yep, that's in 24. Okay, trainer goes. Sage is going to go. All right, I'm going to give this one to you now, and I'll give this will be your freebie because when I changed the test around, I left some things in here just because, and so it's like, hey, you get this one free. So, like, for example, communism, China, you guys got that one, the fall of communism. That was a big effort before the IB history changed it around. There's a thing called Special Economic Zones, SEZ. It'll be on the test. Those are areas like in southeast China near Hong Kong that get capitalism first. Right? They try capitalism in some special areas first, and then ultimately they're like, okay, this is working out. We got some of the kinks worked out, right? This is all part of that, like crossing the river by feeling the stones, gradual transference into communism, from communist economic theory toward more of a free market, and they're called SEZs. But I'm going to ask you this question. You ready? Another military weapon. Stealth bombers. President Reagan really wanted money to go into these. These are highly sophisticated bombers. Give me it's not U-2, but it is a letter and a number. Be the one to tell us what that answer is. Be the one to tell us what the answer is. It's episode what? It's episode 22. That's the answer, B1. B1 bombers, very good. Okay, who goes? Okay. Let's keep going. Yeah. Okay, Garrett, here we go. Garrett, Give me the name of the location where Reagan and Gorbachev were meeting, and they almost made an agreement to get rid of all nuclear weapons. But Reagan wouldn't give up SDI, wouldn't give up Star Wars. What was the location of that summit meeting? Not the Mediterranean. That's going to be one later on with Bush and Gorbachev. This was one. It wasn't in Helsinki. It's about the right latitude, but a little bit further over to the west, quite a bit further over to the west, in the Atlantic Ocean. Exactly, the city in Iceland. I believe it's pronounced Reykjavik. Okay, but Icelandic names are very, very challenging. Oh, that was between United States Secretary of State James Baker and Shevardnadze. Yeah, so that was actually during the Bush, no, that was during Reagan years, during the latter part of the Reagan years. Okay? No, Baker. Sorry, never mind, that was during Bush. Okay, because he was the Secretary of State then. Okay, who goes next, Garrett? Okay, Melody. All right, we got a variety of different ones, trues or false ones. We got the Iran-Iraq War in the true-false section. We got the Persian Gulf War in the true-false section. We got the Nicaraguan conflict in the true-false section, so know these ones as well. I'll phrase this in the terms of, we got 15 true-false ones. So give me the name of the woman whose husband was killed by the previous anti-Sandinista regime, but she was elected in a free election in 1990 when the Sandinistas ultimately finally agreed to allow for free, open elections at the end of all the conflict. I think that is very well pronounced as well. Very good. Yeah, I would have botched that one. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. Oh, the Nicaraguan. Yeah. Okay, Melody goes. Ashton, give me the name of the United States president that was like, Somoza regime, we don't support you so much anymore because you really do have some serious human rights violations. So who was the president that actually greeted the Sandinista leader after he won power in Nicaragua? Jimmy Carter is right. Okay, who goes next? Quinn. Give me the Islamic affiliation of Iran. Give you the two choices, Sunni, Shiite. Yep. Mm-hmm. Is Iraq all Sunni then? No. What part is Shiite? Southern part, exactly. And the Iranians were trying to get those guys to rise up. And of course, we were trying to get them to rise up toward the tail end of the Persian Gulf War as well. Anyway. Iraq is a kind of a mixture of Sunni in the north, although the far north is going to be Kurdish, which is not Arabic. A little bit in Iran, and significantly in the northern part of Iraq, and they were also in Turkey as well. Yeah, they wanted their own country, yeah, but they didn't get it. Who goes next? McKinley. All right. McKinley. Actually, yes or no? During the Persian Gulf War, the coalition forces from 28 different countries included Muslims. Yes or no? Yes. Can you name some of the countries? Mm-hmm. Saudi Arabia. I want to say there was some Jordanian troops in there and some Egyptian troops as well. Yeah. Okay. Oh, the Falklands War too. All right. I got a question for you. Who gets this one? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who gets this one? Who gets the question? You can answer the question if they get stuck. Sage. All right, Sage. Give me the name of the unpopular loser in the Falklands War. Yeah. Argentina, what was his name? That is a good question. It's not Margaret Thatcher. She was she gained popularity. Galtieri. Yep. Yep. Okay. That's pretty good. There's a bunch of other ones and so forth. Study up real well, all the details. We'll give you the test on tomorrow. Okay? And I need to come up with a tentative for those guys. Ay, ay, ay. All right. Good? Yeah, okay. Okay, all right, buckle up. What? Have we actually covered genocide already? Yeah, actually, the very first image in this particular one, conflict intervention, is the paper one kind of overarching topic that we focus on. Yeah, we do Rwanda first because it actually happens before the Kosovo one. So there's things that are going to happen in Rwanda that will lead to some decisions, at least by the United States, on how we deal with Kosovo. Yeah, but they're actually pretty close together. The 1990s is going to be the real critical thing. Yeah. Because when this cartoon was made, that's when genocide was beginning in Darfur. And actually, they could have added one for Kosovo because, yeah. This cartoon, I mean, this is like, look at this. Let's see, which ones have we covered in the course of various different studies in here, even 10th, 11th, and 12th grade? Did we do Armenia? Yeah, World War I. Did we do Nanking? Yeah, we just did that one with the 11th graders. What was going on in Ukraine with the Soviets? That was when Stalin was like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and implement my version of I'm in charge of all the land. What's that? Some sort of what? Yeah, I mean, he was doing cleansing all over the place, but I want to say Ukraine was probably hit more than other areas. There was a little bit more resistance in Ukraine to having the land all taken away. And so there was liquidation of kulaks and mass starvation and so forth. That was why, like when World War II began and the Germans invaded into the Soviet Union in Ukraine, they were initially welcomed in some parts because they're like, wow, this guy's got to be better than what we've been dealing with under Stalin. Turns out Hitler wasn't too happy with the Ukrainians either, and so he killed them as well. Missed opportunity, yeah. Okay, well, in any event, in Ukraine, there was all kinds of terrible deeds that were taking place by the Soviet government as well as the Nazis. And indeed, yeah, the western part of Ukraine is more Ukrainian Ukraine. The eastern part is going to be much more Russian-based. And so there are differences and so forth there. Okay? But I mean, in a cartoon, when somebody's asking a question, what happened to Ukraine during those years? People died. The Holocaust? People died. We haven't covered Cambodia so much. That's kind of a messed up thing. When a communist regime, the Khmer Rouge, took over in Cambodia with the support of the Chinese communists, they ultimately decided to look around and go, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and cleanse. And they got rid of about a third of the population within a very short period of time, about 2 million people. It's horrible. What's that? We supported Cambodia before it was taken over by the Khmer Rouge. So there's different regimes at different times. Okay? And then, of course, Cambodia, we bombed Cambodia, not because of what was going on with the government there during the Vietnam War, but because the North Vietnamese, with the Viet Cong, were transporting all kinds of weapons and supplies and troops through Cambodia on the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Yeah. Darfur is an area of Africa in Sudan where let me see, I'm trying to get these ones sorted out. Anyway, there was an particular ethnic group that the government of Sudan wasn't really happy with, and so they were helping to organize crushing some of the population there. I want to say the Islamic-based government, more Islamic-oriented government, was going after a less Islamic-focused group of people there. Yes? Good. Food. Yeah. Yeah. It's a complicated story. There's a lot of details. I don't have the time to go into all of the details of what was going on there, but needless to say, yeah. Rwanda, we'll get into all the details there. We'll get into all the details of Kosovo as well. Yeah. Your education is going to continue well beyond the confines of here, and I appreciate when people do look up and they have an interest in finding out things, because you can't rely on just me. And of course, when I teach you stuff, there is a lot more nuance when you dig deeper and you see multiple layers and things and so forth, right? This is to spark your interest. So hopefully you don't look at this and go, I have a revulsive feeling. I will never, ever want to know what is going on in the world around me. Because in fact, a lot of Americans have that attitude. And when they look at things like this, they're like, too much. Give me a game to play. You know, when does sports come back on television? Oh my gosh. So here I'm just going to like force you. And some of you just, you like soak it in, which is awesome. You're like, you want to know what is going on in the world, which is great. And I like that. And so particularly about parts of the world that people are like, Africa? Oh my gosh, look at all those flags of African countries. This is so complicated. I can't learn everything. Well, guess what? You're going to learn about Rwanda. Here we go. Write it down. And as we go through here, the way we've got it organized for you, each of the paper 1 topics, and we've chosen prescribed subject number 5. And when you get the paper 1 exam, it's an hour-long exam, you'll get 5 different choices. And you'll flip through those really quickly. I suppose, actually, and some students do this. I want to say it's like the paper 4 topic. One of the 2 choices has to do with the American Civil Rights Movement. Have you covered the American Civil Rights Movement? Yeah, you have. If you felt comfortable with it, you could do the paper 4 one. Because the interesting thing about these paper 1 things, a lot of what you're going to do is practicing, demonstrating that you know how to do OPVL kind of stuff. Like reading a document and analyzing it. You can do that. There is about a 20, 25-minute essay at the latter part of this 1-hour experience where you bring in information that you've learned in class. And so if you felt comfortable with the civil rights one, if they have a civil rights one, because the other one, it's like either civil rights in the United States or getting rid of apartheid in South Africa, which not all of you know that much about getting rid of apartheid in South Africa. It's either like it's this or this. Who knows? Whatever year. You will know enough on the paper 1 topic, prescribed subject 5, because it's either going to be Rwanda or it will be Kosovo. What's that? We'll get into it. We're going to get into the details here. There's a lot of important details. There's tribal stuff, but then when the Europeans arrive, it's going to change everything. Okay? So that's going to be a big component of what we do here. So as far as what you have in front of you, you've got causes of the conflict, course and intervention, and impact. And I will do those sequentially. Okay? For you, when you're following along here, key terms. I've put all of these key terms, as you can see, they go all the way over into the back, the second page, right up near the top. And we'll take those all the way through sequentially as we go through this Rwanda unit. Okay? I think it's actually organized pretty well, so it's just pretty straightforward on that. Okay? Just for Rwanda. And I've got a handy little map for you in the back so you can kind of keep an eye on various different things. Okay? All right, so first of all, are you guys ready? Rwanda. Very, very small country located in Africa. Right near Lake Victoria, near the equator. Beautiful area. Can support a large population, and in fact, has supported large populations over time. Lovely. They visited where? Lake Victoria, yeah. And actually, you can visit Lake Victoria. You can access it from Tanzania. You can access it from Kenya. You can access it from Uganda. You're like, really? What do we? Actually, take a look at the back of the handout, you'll see the neighbors of Rwanda. It's going to be very important to know the geography because this is, I mean, we're looking at a very small area. It's going to be very important to know the geography of this. Just to the north, you've got Uganda. Okay. To the west, across Lake Kivu, you will have, I've got it written down as Zaire. It was Zaire when I was your age. Now it is referred to as the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Not to be confused with across the Congo River, the Republic of the Congo. Is that okay, Ashton? I know we're throwing Congo at you a couple times here, but that's where you go. Yeah, so like when I was in your freshman year, I was over at Jefferson Elementary working with like elementary kids and so forth. Some of the kids I worked with were from that region. They'd escaped some of the fighting and so forth that had taken place in the Congo and the area around there and made their way to refugee camps, and then ultimately they made their way to the United States of America, and now they're neighbors of yours. Okay? But I mean, it was interesting because I could look, knowing what I knew and what I'm going to be teaching you guys, when I see a little boy that's missing a finger or two, I'm like, okay. And I knew that he missed a finger or two because of some various different violent episodes and so forth. When we'd have fire drills at the elementary school, there were so many kids that were refugees from war-torn countries, Syria, what is now, what was referred to as Burma, Myanmar, some of the population there, and then of course a bunch from Africa. When we'd have a fire drill, we always need to make sure that like everyone knew that, because when you hear that, that can be kind of a unsettling thing. I don't know if it is for you, but some of them have like early memories of being a kid and hearing stuff like that. So yeah, it's like, so this isn't just a unit. You have people in Idaho that have experienced some of the things that occur there. So it's not just over there, it actually is part of the same world and sometimes the same neighborhood that you live in. Okay? Just to the south of Rwanda is going to be a little teeny tiny country called Burundi. In fact, let me see if I can find the flags because I try and keep them kind of, hey, here we go. There's the Democratic Republic of the Congo. There's the new flag of Rwanda. They used to have like this R thing. It's kind of boring, but there's the new one. And there's Burundi. There's Uganda. I think theirs is cool because they've got like a fighting chicken thing in there. Okay? And there's Tanzania. Okay? All right? Those are the neighbors. That's the neighborhood that we're going to be looking at. So when do we know this? Well, let's start out before, because before the arrival of Europeans, things were different. Okay? To say the least. Before the arrival of Europeans, in the area that we now know as Rwanda, you're going to have a variety of different ethnic groups. And I want to tell you about them because that's going to factor very prominently in the story of what happens in Rwanda. Are you ready? The first group that we're not going to be spending as much time on is the Twa. Okay? That is going to ultimately comprise less than 1% of the population of Rwanda. Okay? Their heritage in that area is like, they're the first inhabitants of the area of Rwanda, hunter-gatherers. Okay? And they will be ultimately vastly outnumbered by two later arriving groups, the Hutu and the Tutsi. Okay? And you're like, oh, it sounds like a confection. Can I have a Tootsie Roll? I'm like, oh my God, get that out of your system now. Because literally later on when somebody goes, can I see your documentation? Oh, you're a Tutsi. Let's go kill them right now. You're like, what? And if you're a Hutu friend of the Tutsi and you're like, oh, well, you're a Hutu, you need to kill this Tutsi. And you're like, how do you know that? It's in your documentation. This is going to be a required element of documentation that people have. Whoa. Are they going to round up Tutsis and kill them? Yeah.
How come the Twa guy is so short?
Because that's one of the features. Okay? I would say, I mean, if you look at the various different population groups within Africa, as far as height, probably some of the tallest ones, I want to say, are going to be like located in the area around Ethiopia, Kenya, and so forth. Some of them very, very, very tall. Okay? Probably among the shortest are going to be, I want to say like in, almost not quite in South Africa, but there's going to be some area like the Kikuyu and so forth that are much shorter. I think the Twa have some of those heritage similarities. I don't know. I'm not an expert on it. Okay? But, you ready for the next? Between the 5th and 11th centuries, you're going to having arriving from the north and from the east a group known as Hutu. They will be the dominant ethnic group in Rwanda, making up about 90% of the population. Okay? They will be involved in farming, some ranching. Okay? So they're going to be arriving and make up the bulk of the population and continue to make up the bulk of the population even into today. The Hutu. And that's right here. The Tutsi begin arriving at about the 14th century. The Tutsi are going to be coming in from the east, predominantly from Ethiopia. Tutsi, not always, but sometimes may be able to be distinguished by perhaps a little bit lighter skin, sometimes, but not always. Perhaps by a little bit more height, sometimes, but not always. All right? Because if you look, like Ethiopia and so forth, a little bit closer in proximity to some of the Arab populations, and of course once you get to North Africa, you've got much lighter skin compared to the sub-Saharan African region, which is much darker skin. Yes?
Where did they come from?
From the Ethiopian, the so-called Horn of Africa. It's easy to remember Horn of Africa because you got like Ethiopia, Somalia. It was interesting because, again, when I was 3 years ago when I was working with kids, I was working with some who were from the Congo, and their religious affiliations, mostly Christian. There were also some refugee kids that were from Somalia. We've covered Somalia, remember that? What's the predominant religion in Somalia? It is Muslim, yeah. Okay? A little bit lighter skin, not totally lighter skin, but also Muslim. And so it's interesting because they're like, hey, we're all refugees from the same. Yeah, it's like, I remember this when we get to the whole thing, what goes on in the Balkans between Serbs and Croats and Bosnians and so forth. Oh my gosh, it's going to be crazy. There's going to be all kinds of killing and fighting. And refugees coming to the United States, living in the Boise area, because the Boise area is pretty darn good for like bringing in refugees and trying to assimilate them to the United States American way of life. And so you'd have, with some challenges, because sometimes it's like you got a Serbian refugee, and then you had a Bosniak refugee, and they're like, why are those kids like not necessarily always getting along? Was there something that happened in their... This is why you really need to know history and what's going on in the world, because you don't just want to sort of step in it and go, oh, you guys are from the same part of the world. You must have so much in common. Yeah. And what? Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting because I would say, that was like mostly in the 1990s, as we'll get into when we look at it, some tensions. Although, once you've been in America a long time, maybe some of the things that were problems for the people who you're related to back in the home country maybe aren't as much of a problem now. We hope, But other people are like, no, once an enemy, always an enemy. I will never, can you ever be friends with someone of a different political distinction as you? There you go. Good for you. Good for you. It's nice if they have something in common with you, But, I know you wanted one person to win in a presidential election, but you know what? In your lifetime, you're going to get another winner, right? You're looking over at somebody going, and just you wait, yeah. And they'll be like, anyway. It's like, do we do that in America when we win presidential elections and other political elections? Okay, apparently. It's like, yeah. Anyway, so the Tutsi, we're talking about the Tutsi. The Tutsi, from the area involved in agricultural pursuits, ranching, and so forth, they will absorb into and become part of some similarity within Rwanda. There's going to be a lot of similarity, but there's going to be some distinctions. Here is the first similarity, cultural and linguistic similarity. It's called Kinyarwanda. Kenya, Rwanda. Got it? You see that word in there? Look at key terms. I gave you the sheet. You want to have the sheet in front of you at all times because it all is sequential. Do you see Kenya, Rwanda? It's the fourth word. Right? So we see, oh, there we go. Yeah. Twa, Hutu, Tutsi, Kenya, Rwanda. Very good. So you're like, Hutu, what is your culture and linguistic connection? Kenya, Rwanda. What is yours, Tutsi? Kenya, Rwanda. Oh, you're all part of the same thing. Yeah, maybe, yes. Although there are some distinctions. Kenya, Rwanda is sort of like the language cultural group. Okay? So it's kind of like, what language and culture do we have here in America? American. We're American. If you come to this country and you've been here for a while, what language do you end up typically speaking? American. I love this. She's like, is there a different way that people speak English in different parts of the world? Oh, yes, there is, yes. In America, they speak American. It's more sort of guttural and sort of, but in England, you know, if you're sort of in the all right, you know, as opposed to South Africa, you know, where they speak things a little bit different. You're like, oh my gosh, that's a terrible accent, yeah. You know, it's not too bad, yes, as opposed to Canada, eh, you know. It sounds more Australian, yeah. Yeah, anyway, you try, you bounce it around and so forth. My mom's really good. She could actually do like a Liverpudlian accent, different from a Manchester accent, which is like, those cities are like 30 or 40 miles apart. But she's a trained professional actress. I teach. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, they've got this cultural linguistic thing. Is it enough to bind them together so there's not going to be problems? No. And you're like, well, what's the problem? Write this down. A lot of intermarriage over the years. There's going to be a fair amount of intermarriage. Later, many of them adopting the Christian religion. Got that? Over time, there will be a little bit of a distinction. One group in particular is going to distinguish themselves a little bit better, get a little bit more prosperity, like in the area of ranching. The Tutsi. Like, what difference does that make? Well, next time we're going to find out it makes all the difference, because when the Europeans arrive and they're looking for some group to help them to rule over the other ones, the Europeans are going to look at who to be their helpful tribal overlords over the rest of the people. The Tutsi. Yeah, they're going to have the Tutsi play that role. Okay? We just got started. We'll continue that. I don't know how long the test is going to take, but after the test,